much like those far outposts. At the last moment it was decided our mother would remain behind for the final weeks of the summer to oversee the arrangements for the lodger's care over us and ready us for our new boarding schools. On the Saturday before he flew alone towards that distant world, I accompanied my father once more to the office near Curzon Street. He had suggested a long walk, since, he said, for the next few days his body would be humbled on a plane. So we caught a bus to the Natural History Museum, then walked up through Hyde Park into Mayfair. He was unusually eager and cheerful, singing the lines homespun collars, homespun hearts, wear to rags in foreign parts, repeating them again and again, almost jauntily, as if this was an essential rule. What did it mean? I wondered. I remember we needed several keys to get into the building where the office he worked in took up that whole top floor. I stood in front of the large map, still unlit, memorizing the cities that he would fly over during the next few nights. Even then I loved maps. He came up behind me and switched on the lights so the mountains on the relief map cast shadows. Though now it was not the lights I noticed so much as the harbours lit up in pale blue, as well as the great stretches of unlit earth. It was no longer a fully revealed perspective, and I suspect that Rachel and I must have watched our parents' marriage with a similar flawed awareness. They had rarely spoken to us about their lives. We were used to partial stories. Our father had been involved in the last stages of the earlier war, and I don't think he felt he really belonged to us. As for their departure, it was accepted that she had to go with him. There was no way, we thought, that she could exist apart from him. She was his wife. There would be less calamity, less collapse of the family if we were left behind, as opposed to her remaining in Ruvigny Gardens to look after us. And as they explained, we could not suddenly leave the schools into which we had been admitted with so much difficulty. Before his departure, we all embraced our father in a huddle, the Moth having tactfully disappeared for the weekend. So we began a new life. I did not quite believe it then, and I am still uncertain whether the period that followed disfigured or energized my life. I was to lose the pattern and restraint of family habits during that time, and as a result, later on, there would be a hesitancy in me, as if I had too quickly exhausted my freedoms. In any case, I am now at an age where I can talk about it, of how we grew up protected by the arms of strangers. And it is like clarifying a fable about our parents, about Rachel and myself, and the Moth, as well as the others who joined us later. I suppose there are traditions and tropes in stories like this. Someone is given a test to carry out. No one knows who the truth-bearer is. People are not who or where we think they are, and there is someone who watches from an unknown location. I remember how my mother loved to speak of those ambivalent tasks given to loyal knights in Arthurian legends, and how she told those stories to us, sometimes setting them in a specific small village in the Balkans or in Italy, which she claimed she had been to and found for us on a map. With the departure of our father, our mother's presence grew larger. The conversations we used to overhear between our parents had always been about adult matters. But now she began telling us stories about herself, about growing up in the Suffolk countryside. We especially loved the tale about the family on the roof. Our grandparents had lived in an area of Suffolk called the Saints, where there was little to disturb them, just the sound of the river, or now and then a church bell from a nearby village. But one month, a family lived on their roof, throwing things around and yelling to one another, so loudly that the noises percolated down through the ceiling and into her family's life. There was a bearded man and his 3 sons. The youngest was the quiet one. Mostly he carried the pails of water up the ladder to the ones on the roof. But whenever my mother walked from the house to collect eggs from the hen house or get into the car, she saw him watching them. There were thatchers fixing the roof, busy all day. At dinner time they pulled down their ladders and left. But then one day a powerful wind lifted the youngest son so he was tilted off balance and fell from the roof, crashing down through the lime bower to land on paving stones by the kitchen.